Hey guys, it's on here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing a new comic book by the issue series, although this is actually going to slot into the Dark Knights of Steel playlist. So if you guys have not watched my reviews for those, please jump in onto that playlist on the channel and check it out. But this is a review slash conversation slash recap, whatever you want to call it, of Dark Knights of Steel Allwinter, which is actually not the only story in this issue. So this issue has the first story, or the first part of Allwinter, but also has this smaller story, like a backup, I guess, called Dark Knights of Steel, Heir to the Sea, which is Arthur Curry's story, right? And Allwinter, of course, is about, what's his name? Slade Wilson, who is, no, is that his name? Well, I mean, it's about Deathstroke. I forgot his, like, civilian name, right? I'm pretty sure it's Slade, but I can't remember if it's a Wilson or something else, right? Because, what's it called? Deadpool also has, like, a name that's really similar, right? So, yeah, anyway, so I'm going to do, like, a non-spoiler section right now, and then I'll get into spoilers later, right? So, overall, this is a really cool story. It is mostly in black and white, but it's clear that it's not really supposed to be, because it still looks rendered and finished and painted, and then it just looks like they slapped grayscale on top of it. So I'm curious if they're going to turn that into a different, separate version of the book that you can buy later. I'm sure they will, because that's an easy way to make money. I'm sure someone's going to want to buy that, right? And the art style and the creative team are different for Allwinter and for Heir to the Sea, right? So Allwinter is a new separate storyline that has nothing to do with the original Dark Knights of Steel, which is about the Kal-El family, the El family, crashing down onto Earth, becoming assimilated into the Wayne Kingdom, which is a, you know, medieval Game of Thrones style fantasy world version of the Bruce Wayne's family. And then when the Waynes die, the elves are elevated into leadership position because they basically are gods, right? And then there was this big war between the kingdom made of the Themyscirians and the kingdom made up of Black Lightning and Constantine and the El Kingdom, right? Because there's like this, like the elves have a weakness to magic, so they would eradicate magic users. And then the Black Lightning people had like magic based around weather, because Black Lightning, that's basically what he does, although his powers are scientific, I think, initially. And the Themyscirians join in because there's like an assassination or something, right? And they're all fighting. And eventually they manage to resolve the conflict, but this kind of creates this Tom Taylor, you know, fantasy version of the superhero world that we're used to, right? So Tom Taylor went with this, and the series was good, but it was a bit weird because it had like weird pacing issues to it. And I think that was because it was like a COVID project, right? But it ended up being okay. I think the art style is probably the most interesting part. And Dark Knights of Steel Allwinter is much better, actually. I think it's much more dynamic and interesting. And it follows, you know, Deathstroke as he kind of lives in this wintry kind of like region of the world. And he's kind of getting old and unhappy with the way that things are. And he is a mercenary that contracts himself to Vandal Savage and Killer Frost. And they send him off on a mission, but then it turns out that this mission is actually something that he is not actually willing to do. And so he has to turn on them eventually, and that's kind of the basics of what happens. And there's this really cool reveal at the end that is pretty exciting, and it really changes the dynamic of the story, right? So this is a much more compelling kind of style, at least because it's a lot quicker, there's a lot shorter, and it's actually not done by Tom Taylor. It's written by Jay Kristoff with art by Tirso, who I'm guessing is from Spain, because that's the only place I've ever heard that name in. And it's really cool, right? So if you guys like Viking type stories, but you want a little bit of a superhero flair to them, I would recommend this, because that's basically what it is, right? And the backup issue is more or less just like another version of the main Dark Knights of Steel storyline, but this time, instead of focusing on Superman and Wonder Woman, it focuses on Aquaman, right? And if you like the Superman origin story, you might like this because it's like a remix of that, right? And it starts before Arthur is, you know, born or raised yet. So it starts like 25 years before Dark Knights of Steel happened, right? So it's pretty interesting. It looks cool. I'm very excited to read more of it because I really liked it. So overall, this first issue is very much worth the money. I recommend you guys check it out. It's very, very cool. And it's very dynamic and interesting. Like the coloring dynamic that they have is really cool. The different art styles between the two series is really nice. And, you know, overall, very good stuff, right? So, yeah, that's my overall review of this. That isn't very spoilery. It's actually, I think there's really no spoilers beyond, you know, some of the characters that show up, but you kind of need to know them to understand what's going to happen here, right? So, yeah, now I'm going to go into proper, you know, spoilery thoughts here. So if you're not interested in that, feel free to click away now. So it opens up with this saying, right, that a coward dies 1,000 times and a brave man only dies once. And old man Slade here is like, yeah, that shit is bullshit. It's not true, right? He grabs a crossbow, he aims it, and he shoots Black Mask and kills him in a single shot. And this throws his army in disarray. And so Deathstroke has won the battle for Vandal Savage with only a single loss of life. However, Vandal Savage, being a psycho, decides that they're going to kill all of the people in this army anyways because they might rise up again to fight him later, and he doesn't need that, so he gets Killer Frost to just freeze them in place and kill them. And, well, Slade, you know, Deathstroke clearly doesn't like this, but it is what it is, right? Like, you know, what are you going to do? He gets paid by this guy, so it's going to happen anyways. And he understands. Later on, they move on to a feast to celebrate this great battle that was won. Although it wasn't a great battle, there was no honor in it. It was just kind of like abusing these people and murdering them for no reason, right? Because the battle had already been won. And we get more backstory on Deathstroke here. We get to know that he's always been this mercenary character. He's always been very powerful, very good at his job, but he's getting tired of it. He's getting to the point where it's not meaningful and valuable to him anymore. And I think Tom Taylor really likes to write this type of character because I'm pretty sure this is the same sort of storyline that he has in Deceased, right? But it's a bit different because in that one he has like children. He doesn't have any in this one, right? And so it's like the reason for his wariness, the world is for a different reason. And this one, he's just tired of living in this shitty, desolate, black and white world, right? And Vandal Savage offers him a new job. And, you know, Deathstroke doesn't really want to take it, but he's like, well, if you pay me enough, I'll do it. Vandal Savage gives him a giant pile of money, and he's like, well, okay, I guess I'll do it. And he and Killer Frost set off to sea. They go off somewhere, and Killer Frost jockeys for leadership position in this while they're in the ocean. However, they get attacked by a kraken, which actually doesn't look like a kraken at all. Like, it's not an octopus. It's more like a giant, bloated, like, ugly mutant shrimp thing. Well, it kills most of the people that are with them. However, Deathstroke manages to kill it from the inside, and everyone assumes he's dead, but then they see that he's alive, and he gets back on the boat, and they continue on their journey, right? And then they manage to make it to this temple place. There's this battle, and during the battle, some information is let out by some of the people there, and it turns out that Vandal Savage sent Slade, or, you know, Deathstroke, to kill his own family, his ex-wife and his child, or at least I assume it's his child, from, like, for no reason, basically. It's unclear why Vandal Savage made him do this, but he realizes that he's told to target his wife, and he can't do that, so he actually betrays Caitlin, or, you know, Killer Frost, and he helps his ex-wife. Then he helps this kid up, and he realizes that they're a child, and he takes the cloak off of them to make sure that they're not hurt. And as he does this, he realizes that this boy is shining and in color, and it looks very different because everything else is in this weird grayscale, right? And it's really good stuff. It's very unclear what happened, but it's pretty understandable that this is his son, right? Or his child of some sort. Because I know he has a daughter, and I'm pretty sure he also has a son, but his son has something happen to him. And I think that's what the Judas contract story is about. And they die, or they become paralyzed or something. I can't remember. And it makes, like, you know, his relationship with his family really, really messed up, right? So I'm curious if that's going to happen here as well. Probably not, but it's pretty interesting that this kid is in color and everyone else is not, right? And this kid almost has like a Loki vibe to him just because of the color scheme. Like, the kid isn't like particularly special or anything. He doesn't look like it, except that he's in color and he's wearing gold, green, and brown coloring, right? They're black, I think. and he has blonde hair, right? So he's very different from everything else that we've seen so far, and it's very exciting and curious, and I'm really excited to see what happens next after this, right? So yeah, in terms of the second story, the backup, the Dark Knights of Steel, Heir to the Sea, Book 1, or Story 1, Chapter 1, whatever you want to call it, by Tom Taylor and Riccardo Federici. And I can't remember if this is the guy that did the art for the first series or not. I'm pretty sure he's not, because yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not him, because I think the person that did the art was Jasmine Putri, right? But I can't remember. But I think I've seen Riccardo Federici's work before. I can't remember if he worked on something with Philip Kennedy Johnson, right? I think he did, but I don't know. I feel like I have it over there, but I can't see it, so it is what it is. But yeah, so this is a really cool art style. It's very different from the previous one. It's all in color, and it's pretty like realistic almost. It almost has like this painted feel to it, but it's pretty clear that it's done digitally, and it looks really, really nice. And we get set in the past, 25 years before the Dark Knights of Steel main story, and it follows this small band of soldiers. And it turns out that these soldiers are led by John and Martha Kent, and they are in this battle, and they have a bunch of people with them, right? Waller ends up getting hurt, and Gordon, who is pretty hard to distinguish until they call him by his name, Jim Gordon, yells for her, tries to go help her, and then the Kents end up saving her life during this battle, right? They finish the battle, they win it, and then later on, when they're having a break at night for dinner, new orders get sent to them. They have to go to Le Guin, which is the city on the coast, right? And I wonder if this is a reference to Ursula K. Le Guin, right? Because she has the Earthsea series, right? And so they're going to this place where the Earth meets the sea. I'm sure that has to do with it. I'm not really 100% sure though, so we'll see. And it turns out that the Ocean Kingdoms are having some civil unrest right now. And there's issues there, and so they have to go there to you know, just to make sure that nothing's going on, that nothing is too bad, right? And so they have dinner, and they chat with Waller and Jim, and then that's kind of the end of their part of the story. We go down to Lemuria, which is the ancient name that is also associated with the city of Atlantis, so it makes sense that this would go. Where I know Lemuria most from is from Robert E. Howard books, right? Like the Thurian Age, where Cole is from, happens in Valusia, which has to do with Lemuria and Atlantis and all these places, right? But Lemuria, Atlantis, same idea. It's just these ancient, very advanced civilizations that happen to flood and end up getting destroyed, right? And we get to see this fishman giving orders being given orders, and he's worried, and he doesn't want to do them, but he's told that he has to anyways. Turns out that Black Manta is the king of this place at this point, and he wants Arthur, who is the false heir, to be killed before he manages to become an issue by going to the surface world, right? So very cool stuff here. I really like both of these stories. I think they were great. I'm very excited to see what happens next. I think it's going to be very exciting, very cool. And I'm curious why they decided to use this Heir to the Sea story as a backup instead of making its own series. I guess they didn't have enough stuff to work with there, or didn't think that it was valuable to them to have two different Dark Knights of Steel series running at the same time, right? I'm curious to know that at some point, but overall it's pretty good. It is a $5 issue, but I think it's worth it because you do get two very cool and pretty different stories, right? So overall, I enjoyed this a lot. So there you go. That's Dark Knights of Steel Allwinter and Heir to the Sea, issue 1. Hopefully you guys will be back for issue 2, right? So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.